Ready to time warp your digital sterile mix back to 1987? I got one plugin, 5 moves, Blockbuster video vibes, new VHS plugin from Hertz. Let's dive right in. This week's Radium Pow. We're going back in time, baby. Welcome to the Radium Records channel. If this is your first time here, I'm Bradley Deniston. I've been composing, producing, mixing, mastering for 25 plus years now. Grammy, Emmy, Oscar nominated work, $3 billion plus in box office sales on movies I've worked on, tons of TV shows, sync licensing placements, blah, 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 platinum records. I'm here to show you guys everything I know and hopefully help you guys out. So let's dive in, shall we? VHS from Hertz. Really cool plugin. Really a lot of fun. I have this on the master bus right now, and I'm going to take you through 5 different ways to use this plugin, and also just to use any sort of analog style plugin to help you get some warmer mixes that aren't so sterile and digital, right? Because that's starting to suck, especially now that we got AI and it's like everything sounds really weird and super digital, right? So this is going to help you stay out of that, competing with everybody sort of realm. So here we go. We got dry, wet, we got output, VCR 1 and 2. We got a bunch of presets up here. You guys can kind of go through those. Power on and off. I love the UI. It's just like really creative. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time going over everything. I'm going to actually show you stuff in this video. So stick around. All right. So we got preamp, wow, EQ, noise, tape. You got a new or an old, and you got a gain here with the gain up and down. And here's where you can switch between tape, old, and new. And then you have the wow and flutter, EQ, noise. These are all the on and off buttons for it. As you can see, they kind of go red or green when you turn them on and off. Now, I have this on the master bus to give it some preamp, gain, and drive, and some warmth. And let's just hear it in action. Really pushing that mid-range really nicely, super warm and fat. But there's an EQ curve that I want to show you because on this VCR, you could go 1, 2, 3. There's these different EQ settings. And if you look right here, there's these 3 dots that show up. And you can kind of flip through these presets of the VCR. So check it out. The second one is my favorite because it sounds super nostalgic. Pretty sick, right? So really cool way, I think, to do like a transitional area or to make something sound really nostalgic if you want it to sound like it's coming out of small speakers. That's a really cool EQ preset. But the preamp, let's drive the preamp. This is kind of how you thicken things up. And the tip I'd give you, tip number 1, right, is to give yourself some preamp gain and some grit, which will give you some harmonics. And I have this on the master bus, which is really daring. You don't need to do that. You could put it on vocal mix bus, guitars, synth bus, drum bus. But this is like pushing the edge, right? Like I wouldn't typically do this, but I just want you guys to hear the color of it. So here's the preamp, and you could turn it on and off here. And we're just going to gain this up. And when you gain it up here, you don't definitely want to make up the gain on the output. Okay. So, or else it's just going to be a big fucking mess. So check it out. So we're going to gain this way up. Just beefs everything up. Like really cool drive. Sounds good. I love it. Now, VCR 1, I want to go to this as well because you have a different preamp drive. And this is the 1977 kind of vibe of what a VCR is. The very first VCR came out in 1977. Fun fact. I think it was from JVC. I wasn't around then. I was born in 83, so I'm not that old. But, that's fun fact, right? Like I've never seen this VHS before. I had to look that up. I was like, I had never seen a VHS that looks like this. I always see the front loading ones like the VCR 2, right? So anyway, let's listen to the preamp here. You also have a limiter on here, which is fun. We'll get into that. Now, as you can hear, that just sounds way more old school and classic, right? So the drive on that is not as master bus friendly. You might want to put that on the drums and blend it in, you know what I'm saying? So preamp though, your tip number one is definitely get those harmonics from this preamp, drive the preamp, don't be afraid of it, mess around with it, and then also dry wet it, you know, parallel it in, because that's a great way to use distortion and harmonics with these sort of preamp drives. Technique number two, to give you that analog vibe and make things a little bit more moody and sexy and not so boring and drab and robotic, is to use wow and flutter. All right, we're gonna pop wow and flutter on this Juno synth, which, you know, I love the chorus on the Juno, so I have that on, I've recorded it, etc. And I just want to give it some more movement, because when you don't have movement on a synth, it really just screams stock sound. Here's a stock sound I grabbed from Logic or Pro Tools or Ableton. Beep, boop, beep, boop. It just sounds like boring, and people can tell, and they don't know why your music sounds so boring and so amateur, but it's typically because it just sounds like stock sounds. All right, so check this out. We're going to mess around with the preamp, wow, flutter, the EQ. I've already set something up, but I'm going to explain exactly what I did on this synth. So here's before and after. So cool, right? So we're getting a little bit of harmonics from the preamp because I'm pushing the preamp a little bit. The wow is giving you that, you know, that sort of warping, detuned, kind of destabilized thing. And then the flutter is giving you the flutter. I mean, you know, you guys know what wow and flutter are, right? Anyway, so we got the EQ as well. So I'm taking down 250 and 500, and I'm just kind of like curving out the EQ a little bit, which is really fun. You can see up here, this is where you can mess around with the bands and the frequencies. But let's turn off the preamp and let's just hear the wow and flutter, no EQ as well. You hear that? It's like a drunk synth. So you want to be pretty careful with wow and flutter, because it can start to sound like out of tune. So play it within the context of the mix and start to mix it in and figure out a good spot for the wow and flutter. That's my biggest tip to you guys as you do this. Don't just like solo out an instrument and start dialing in wow and flutter, right? Because then you're like out of tune, and it sounds fine because it's out of tune with itself, but when you put it in the context of the song, it's like, dude, that sounds terrible. What is that out of tune instrument? So let's put it in with the preamp and everything I had, the EQ, etc., and we'll kind of blend this in. Sounds pretty damn good. Now let's bypass it in and out. I'm listening to the lead that we soloed earlier, so just focus on that. You can hear also it just kind of sets it into the mix, which is a really cool trick with wow and flutter, and of course the EQ curve that I got going on here. So one last tip to help you guys have some really cool arrangements: you can actually automate the wow and flutter for different parts. Like for me, I think it's really cool when you go to like a bridge or a pre-chorus or something, and you automate the wow up, and then you bring it back down, you know, and make it more straight for when the chorus hits. I think that's a really cool way to make things like kind of psychedelic, make people feel kind of out of their head or feel uncomfortable or queasy, and then you're like, you bring them back too, right? So it's a really good trick for that because you are getting that pitch variation. But that's it. Wow and flutter, use it. Let's get to technique number three. Technique number three. This one's going to be a cool one. And for you guys that stuck around, I'm going to start getting deeper and deeper into more game here. And if you're enjoying the video, of course, throw some love, little thumbs up, you know what I'm saying? And I'll leave a link in the description to the plugin so you guys can check it out as well. But check this out. A lot of people are against noise, right? They're like, oh, I hate noise in a plugin. I was like, all right, well, sorry about that. That's analog, right? So I'm going to show you a way you can use noise to your advantage. I'm going to use it as sort of an EQ here for the snare drum. So what I have set up here and what you can set up as well, is on the snare drum here, I'm just going to solo it. I'm sending to bus 2 100%, and on bus 2 I have the VHS plugin. I have the noise on and the EQ on. The noise is pretty high, and the EQ is boosting up at the 8K, 4K, you know, we're getting a little air type stuff going on. And then I have the Pro G. Okay, the Pro G is just a gate. You can use any gate you want. All right, this is going to be really something you're going to adjust the hold on it typically, or the release and the hold. All right, so I have the attack really fast, and I have the release and hold a little bit slower, and this will give me some air at the end of my snare. And it sounds like this. An incredible way to EQ your snare drum. A lot of times people don't talk about this, and I don't know why, but you can also do this in reverse, where you have it pretty much when it hits, the sound or the noise goes away, right? It ducks it. And then when the kick drum or the snare drum goes away, the noise comes back in. So it's like do, do. You know, you get this kind of sucking, swelling sound. I wanted to show you this way because you can really sculpt the drums in the mix. Now check this out. I'm going to put it into the mix, and we're going to start messing around with the drum sound here. As you can hear, it's just adding this really cool analog texture. So the noise is your friend, all right? Don't be afraid of noise. Actually, Dave Pensato one time in an interview said, "I love noise. It's like listening to the ocean," right? And then Jason Joshua and all these other producers talk about noise all the time and how they use it in their production. This is one way to do it. I'm going to send the kick to it as well so you can hear the difference here. Here's the kick drum going to it, and I'm going to kill it on the snare. Baby, when you so stop, got a minute up there. Hearts don't stop, just gives it that glue, gives it that analog texture, makes it feel very timeless or timely, right? 80s, 90s, 70s even. That's where you're getting that kind of like analog, old school vibe and texture is with the noise. So try this out and just kind of mess with it until you get it right. The attack and the release of the noise and the gate and all that good stuff. But very, very cool noise algorithm on this plugin. Also, you can switch between VCR 1 and 2 and get a totally different noise. So sculpting it, I just like with the VCR 1, you get to sculpt it with the EQ. So you can get some more smack out of your snare drum or make it a little bit duller and low end heavy with a kick drum. Let's move on to technique number 4. Technique number 4, we're going to take this 9-band EQ and we're going to start to sculpt our master bus and our sound to sound more analog and vintage. Okay, so what we have here is we have 9 bands, like I just mentioned, and we have a really low 60, 120, 250, 500, 1K, 2K, 4K, 8K, and 16K. All right, so first thing you want to think about is what makes something vintage. Typically, it's going to be the top end kind of rolled off, right? Because that's what tape machines did. You know, it's just the recording medium. That's what it sounded like. It was like compressing down or limiting down the top end. So we're going to roll down a little 16K to start. Keep on bending, oh, baby, bend you again. Keep on saying, do what it mean alive. And now I'm finished. All right, another thing that makes something kind of vintage and analog sounding is the mid-range poking out. And that's because of the harmonics, the microphones, everything else that they were using back in the 70s, 80s, I would say even back into the 60s and 50s. You had microphones that really were pronounced in the mid-range, right? Meaning like 1K to 3K. It would just push that out. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go into the 1 or 2K and we're going to kind of bring that up a little bit. Keep on bending, oh, baby, bend you again. Keep on saying, do what it mean alive. Keep on bending, oh, baby, bend you again. Keep on saying, do what it mean alive. Now, excuse the gibberish in the writing right now because I'm just writing this song, but that is going to give us some tone. It's going to push the vocals forward as well, or any instrument that's in the middle or the sides that's going to be in that 1-2K, which is typically the vocals. Now, the other thing I want to do to kind of make this a little bit more modern vintage is to mess around with the low mids. And I'm just going to kind of clean these up a little bit by taking down 250, and we're going to look around here and just kind of mess around with the low mids. Low mids to me are 500 all the way down to about 200, right?
You keep on bending, oh, but it brings you again. You keep on saying, do what it mean alive. And now I'm feeling done with the times. You were brave, but it was all my fault, all my game.
This is sounding really cool. This EQ is very, very cool. So I took down a little bit of 60 because obviously that's going to be kind of, you know, really subby, and that, you know, that's an analog synth. I took up 120 because I really like what it's doing to the kick drum. And then we're saving some voltage at 250, and I'm pushing up just a little bit of 500. And let's go to the chorus now, and let's just A-B this.
Your heart won't stop, heart don't stop beating again. With every line you play to win. Your heart won't stop, now I'm heading. All the energy I want in. Heart won't stop, yeah, beating again.
All right, so I really like the 60 hertz that this does, so I'm going to actually bring it back up. Let's bring it up just 0.5 because a little bit goes a long way, and A-B this real quick.
Your heart won't stop, heart don't stop beating again. With every line you play to win. Your heart won't stop, now I'm heading.
The EQ alone on this is worth the price of admission to me. That is an amazing EQ. I'd throw that on a master bus in a heartbeat. Sounds so good, and that is just kind of a tip for you guys as far as like getting that vintage sound. Vintage modern is kind of the music I make, so I just know this very well, but taking down the top, right, the really sparkly stuff, and then just messing around with the low mids and pushing forward the mids. Now, let's get to the last technique, number 5, the big one. Technique number 5, if you want that analog punch, but you hate the sound of digital clipping, this is going to be the technique that you're probably going to use a lot on subgroups and anything else you want this to happen on. I think drums, I think softening transients and making them sound gooey and analog, this is perfect for that, okay? So check this out. We're going to smash the limiter. This is the first step I'm going to make when I do this technique. So I only have the limiter on the plugin, as you can see. And on the limiter, you can see that there's some controls here. We have threshold, we have the limiter release, and we have the makeup gain. Now remember, you have different gain stages throughout any plugin, analog piece of gear, or anything else you're using. A preamp, your interface, anything, you're going to have different gain stages. And gain staging is very, very important to all these techniques. But you have an input gain stage, that's going to be number 1. And it's actually before that, you have the actual waveform, the audio waveform, and then you have the buses, and then you have the master bus. This is on the master bus. So you have all these different tracks feeding to the master bus. And as you can see, I have 3 VHS plugins on the master bus. I have this one here, which is doing the preamp, the tape, a little bit of gain there, okay? So it's mainly the preamp drive. The second VHS we have here is doing the EQing, okay? So these are all different gain stages that this is going through. This third one is going to be doing our limiting. We're going to do a limiter on this. Now, I do have the God particle on as well, just so you guys, that caveat. Nothing's turned on besides the limiter, and we're really doing like 3 dB of limiting, okay? So I have input down 2 dB, limiter up 5.2, and then the output at -0.2. Okay, so that's my final limiter just for safety pretty much, and to give a little bit more gain to the track. So on this VHS, we're gonna use the limiter, and we're going to mess around with input. Remember, threshold, release, makeup gain, and then we also have this output knob, and we have a dry wet knob where we can blend it parallel the limiter. Okay, whew, that was a mouthful. Hopefully you guys are appreciating this video. If you are, drop some love in the comments, all right? All right, so on the threshold, what do you have here? You have negative 30 dB of threshold here. That's a lot. And if we start here, we're gonna start at 0. And then we're gonna go all the way clockwise, and it's gonna be at negative 30 dB, okay? So you can see that there. The limiter, the release, I'm sorry, is going to be 50 milliseconds to 2000 milliseconds. On a master bus, the best way to think about this is get your limiter release really slow and then start to blend back until you start hearing it kind of break up. Because the quicker you release on the limiter, the more you're gonna let overs through. Right? If you go really slow, it's just going to hold it down the whole time, right? It's just going to keep limiting it. If you start to slow down or speed up, you're going to start letting things in, right? It's going to let go. It's letting go faster. So then you're going to let more, it's going to sound louder and you're going to be excited about that, but be careful because then you'll also let overs and distortion through. So we're going to start really slow on the limiter and we're going to back off. Now, really slow to me on a limiter is not 2000 milliseconds. That's a long time. That's like 2 seconds, right? So I'll probably start at like 1,900, somewhere around there. And then we have our makeup gain. So threshold, let's bring it all the way down to where it's just really limiting. And listen.
Your heart won't stop beating again.
Okay, now you can hear it smashing. You're like, that sounds terrible. You just turned it all down, pretty much, right? Because if your release time is so slow, it's just holding it down. It's like putting a pillow over someone's face. You know? All right, we're not going to talk about, unliving someone. I think that's how they say it, right? So they don't get flagged or something. But we're going to slow down the release until we start to hear the actual like pumping of the limiter and the rhythm. You know, we're at 147 BPM, you know what I mean? So listen to the drums.
Your heart won't stop beating again. With every line you play to win. Your heart won't stop now.
That's how you do it. That's how you dial in any compression, any limiting on anything transient heavy, okay? You want to find the pulse of it. Now, I'm trying to find the point where I am not hearing the the letting go of the limiter, where that's the distortion. That's where things are coming through, okay? So I'm just holding it down just long enough, If I let it to go faster on the release, it's going to start going. Listen, I'm going to go really fast on the release and listen to the distortion.
Your heart won't stop beating again. With every line you play to win. Your heart won't stop now. Hey.
Perfect. Not perfect, but I like things to have a little bit of vibe. They don't need to be calculated. That's the idea. Keep it human. Now we're going to back off the threshold and then we're going to mess up with the makeup gain.
Your heart won't stop beating again. With every line you play to win. Your heart won't stop now. Hey,
All right, that's holding it down still, right? We're keeping the glue, keeping it tight. It's got that tape, saturation, compression kind of thing going on. Now we're gonna mess with the makeup gain, and then we're gonna do dry wet. If we want to, we can just kind of blend this in, and we'll mess with the output here.
your heart won't stop beating again. With every line you play to win. Your heart won't stop now. Hey, all the energy while you're in it. Heart won't stop, beating again. Your heart won't stop.
It's so aggressive, it's insane. But sometimes you just want that like really aggressive, energetic, analog sounding mix, you know? And obviously, like I talked about, you want to go back to your gain stages, right? Like you want to mess with stuff because now these boosts at that 100 stuff might be clipping out on the bottom quicker. So you might want to adjust this stuff, right? So let's just adjust the EQ going into the limiter.
Your heart won't stop, heart don't stop beating again. With every line, play to win. Your heart won't stop now. Hey, all the energy while you're in it. Heart won't stop, yeah, beating again, again, again. Bang, boom, boom, that love, boom, boom, yeah. Your heart won't stop, heart don't stop beating again. With every line, play to win. Your heart won't stop now. Hey, all the energy while you're in it. Heart won't stop, yeah, beating again.
So it's a really cool limiter. It has its own vibe. It doesn't sound like any other limiter out there. It's just holding it together. It's like, you go from like this kind of like really open sound, and which sounds more modern to me, right? To like a really classic old school compression that's like, it's like tight. And that is VHS from Audio Hertz. You guys tap in, click the link in the description, go grab it, demo it, check it out. I think you guys will really enjoy it if you make like synth pop, synth wave, hip hop, trap, R&B, soul, anything that wants to have a little bit of grit, grime, wow and flutter, EQ curves of an EQ of a tape machine VHS style thing. Anything that you guys can think of to make it something sound vintage modern. Hope you really enjoyed the show. If you got questions, drop them in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.